Hi, this is Melanie, and you're listening to No Good Music.
Hearing the news ain't like being there. Nothing's like feeling it when it's happening to you. Don't you know that hearing the news makes it easier? Nothing is real unless it's happening to you. Don't you know that hearing the news ain't like being there? Nothing's like.
We have a special guest with us today. She's a singer-songwriter, and she was a performer at Woodstock in 1969. She has a new album out called Magic Bus. Let's welcome to No Good Music, Melanie. We have an audience.
Big audience today.
Yeah, hi Melanie. It's good to meet you virtually. My name is Matt.
Hi.
And I'm Rob. We've talked.
Hi, Matt. Right.
So
right.
You're in Tennessee, is that correct?
Yes, right outside Nashville in Hendersonville.
Okay.
Johnny
Well,
Cash land.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's ironic. We just interviewed someone recently from Tennessee and right near Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an hour ago, our other
That's
interview
probably-
was from Nashville.
Yeah. That's not going to happen again.
Huh. There's a lot of musicians here. I don't know. I
Oh,
wouldn't
sure.
discount it.
So Melanie, what age did you start writing songs? That's our
Oh,
first
gosh. 4. I was about 4 years old.
Oh. Do you remember the first song you wrote?
Well, my mom was a jazz singer. She kind of standards like Billie Holiday and Peggy Lee and big band songs, and but she always liked the more the bluesy jazzy versions, not the Patti Page type versions. So that's what I grew up with, and so it was. I wanted to. I guess I was emulating in some way the songs that she was singing, so I would write songs like not little children songs,
Right.
more like songs like "Cry Me a River" or something.
Oh, really? At the age of 4?
Yeah, that's what was so funny,
Yeah. That's
because
unusual.
what did I know? I didn't have too many torches to extinguish by that time, but
No.
I could imagine,
And that was in New York City, is that right?
Yeah, I was born in Queens, and my parents moved to several, Long Island and New York, and in fact, I was given recently an award for the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
And I was there with Billy Joel, and I got the award. I was inducted into the Long Island Hall of Fame, and I was asking people, does it really count? Because I was from Queens.
Right.
That really count as Long Island? But they said yes. So.
I have any of that happen in Stony Brook? I have friends in Stony Brook.
Oh, right. Stony Brook. I remember did several shows there.
Oh, great.
We want to go way back and talk about Woodstock.
Okay.
You were 22, and you got to perform at Woodstock in 1969. And you were only one of 3 solo artists, if I'm correct. The others were John Sebastian and Joe McDonald, from Joe McDonald and Country Fish, or
Well, they
something
were
like that.
Tim Hardin, right? Tim Hardin and Country Joe. But didn't he have a band? I thought he had a band.
Oh, Country Joe and the Fish, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah.
Not sure.
So that you can't count that as a solo.
No, but I read that I think he performed solo at Woodstock.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
But you traveled solo. So, I mean, you were performing solo. So, that's quite an experience.
But tell us how you got to perform at Woodstock, like how that came about. And you were living in England at the time. or at least when you had to travel to Woodstock.
Yeah, I had my husband was my record producer. It was we met, we fell in love, we got married, we had a hit record, and he had been a producer. He had produced a sort of an underground cult group called the Balloon Farm, very
Okay.
psychedelic. He used a theremin, which was a new sound, and he was already a producer. He was when we met, and I was not a recording artist when we met. So he produced my records for the rest of my life, not the rest of my life, the rest of his life. And then we were recording something. Anyway, he had an office in 1650 Broadway, and that was right, I think, diagonally across from the Brill Building, down that side street, and that's where we would record at Allegro Studios underneath, down in the basement of that building, and in that building was also the people who were developing Woodstock, and it was Mike Lang and Artie Kornfeld and Artie Rip and Buddha Records. They were kind of one incestuous group of they were all connected somehow.
Yeah.
And Peter had an office in that building, and we met them. I mean, he knew them, and they said, "Oh yeah, Melanie should be there." It wasn't.
wow.
It wasn't. I didn't have any idea. Neither did Peter. How enormous this was going to be. Nobody knew at that point. It was
until it happened. Yeah.
Michael Lang and Artie Kornfeld thought this is a good idea. They did it in Montreal, what was it, out in LA, and so they thought that's a good idea. Yeah, Monterey. So they were going to do one of those, And but anyway, I was intrigued more because it was called An Aquarian Exposition at the time, and I was picturing more, families with blankets, and we're going to have arts and crafts.
Yeah, and very folky, family oriented.
Yeah, I'll get candles and love beads and things, But I'm off England. I was actually writing a film score in England when this was all in the works, and of course, before everybody knew everything instantly, right? I mean, I didn't know anything amazing was happening. I mean, my husband and I debated whether I should even go back to do it. I was right next door to the Rolling Stones, and I was writing a film score with John Cameron, and this was, big super stuff, and it wasn't, because of a career exactly, but I didn't think it would really matter that much if I was there or not.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't a well-known person in the US. I had like one record that was being played on underground radio, Beautiful People. That was it.
Beautiful people, we share the same back door, and it isn't right. We never met before, but then we may never meet again. If I weren't afraid you'd laugh at me, I would run and take all of your hands, and I'd gather everyone together for a day.
And it wasn't even in record stores, because the record company at the time didn't kind of get that that sort of music.
Yeah.
It was Clive Davis, and he was touting Michelle Lee at the time, which was fine. It's just that he didn't get what I did at all, and he was, they were much more behind heavy male groups, that,
Yeah.
and they were
Right.
promoting that. And then on the other side of that, they were promoting, standard, girls with bouffant hairdos and things. And
Right. Just divide it up.
just
Yeah.
wasn't
One from the other.
So anyway, I wasn't known at all in the U.S. I hadn't done television or anything. Maybe I had done one TV show. I'm not sure, but I certainly wasn't a face that anybody would have known or a presence of any kind.
Yeah.
Again, I had what they called a turntable hit because Roscoe, the DJ on WNEW FM, just happened to get the record and just started playing it. In fact,
Wow.
when he introduced it the first time, he called me Melanie.
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 Yeah. And we know that station. We're in New Jersey right now. We know of WNEW. Yeah, that's cool.
Only like a fraction of that audience had ever heard that song, but on top of that, they didn't know who Melanie was.
Yeah.
So I went. I decided last minute I would go, and actually Peter stayed in the recording studio in England, and my mother picked me up, and my mom took Woodstock.
Wow.
Probably one of the only performers whose mother took them to Woodstock.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
probably any of the attendees as well. I don't think too many moms took their kids to Woodstock.
Right. If they had been hippies, but hippies weren't invented yet, you were part of that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they called me a beatnik, or when I was going to school, in high school and grade school. Well, not grade school, but high school, they called me an oddball. Didn't even quite have beatnik down. So
I don't think anyone, like you said, knew it would be that big. I don't even think maybe the main performers. They thought it'd just be another show.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you decided to go. Like you said, you had a lot going on in England. And I read that, and I know I've heard this before, they thought 40,000 people would show up, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But people started climbing fences and word of mouth, and it ended up to be over 400,000 people.
It was a movement.
Yeah. Oh, it was totally incredible. I had never, of course, I had never performed for more than 500 people in my life.
Wow.
So, when we hit traffic, me and my mother, we hit some traffic, and I had to find a phone. There was no cell phones, no instant phones.
Yeah.
I had to go
find a phone and a dime.
Whoever I found told me, no, don't go there, go there, go this other place. So we head off to Bethel, and this traffic was unbelievable. And I at first I thought it's a weekend, maybe it was a lot of traffic. But, then I realized as we got a little closer, and we had to detour and go somewhere else. Then I finally get to this motel in Bethel, and it's surrounded by media trucks from one end to the other. I had never met a famous person before. And when I got into the lobby, Sly Stone walks by.
Oh.
And that there's Janis Joplin, and I'm like, oh my God! I had met.
That's what I was going to ask you. If you met any of the main performers.
No, it was it. I mean, Rod Stewart, I didn't even know his name. He was just a part of this group called the Faces.
Faces, yeah.
And so, I mean, that's the person I had met in England. I didn't know. I wasn't an extrovert, that's for sure. In fact, I was an extreme introvert.
Wow.
And it's a wonder. I mean, I know that there's a lot of performers who tend to be on the introverted side of an extrovert business, which is funny. I mean, now it's entirely different because extroverts are the only ones you hear about.
Right.
The introverts are quietly in their room becoming geniuses for their three friends.
So having said that, I'm trying to imagine what it would be like. You know, I'm kind of average on the introvert extrovert scale, but what was it like being 22? What was it like in your brain being on stage? What can you say about that?
So I didn't. I mean, it was the whole lead up. You'd have to hear that.
Yeah.
I got. I went. Somebody recognized me and said, "Melanie, Melanie,
Mm.
go to the helicopter!" And they're all frantic and crazy. And so my mother and I just started going with this guy, and we're running. And I have the guitar strapped to my back. I didn't even have a case for,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
my
Right.
guitar. I'm running like only kids from Juilliard, had guitar cases.
Hmm.
It wasn't, any self-respecting folk singer or whatever I was would always just carry their guitar on us with a strap. I'm running toward the helicopter. I'm thinking, why am I getting in a helicopter? I've never been on a helicopter. I don't want to go on a helicopter.
Yeah.
I don't think they're meant to fly. They're, this whole design of a helicopter,
Hmm.
highly suspect. So I'm at the, where you get in, and
Hmm.
some guy says, "Who's she?" I said, "Oh, it's my mother." And they said, "Oh, sorry, no mothers." No, mom.
No mothers.
Sorry,
Are you
mom.
serious?
Bye bye, mom. No, and I waved goodbye to my mother at the
Wow.
door of the helicopter.
Ugh.
And I got in, and I don't know what I'm in for. I have no idea. I know it must be pretty big because, a lot of chaos and
Hmm.
confusion and kinds of stuff. Well, we get up there, and we're going toward what I imagine is Woodstock or whatever it's called
Hmm.
by
Yeah.
then.
Whatever.
And then the I look down, and there's this colorful, what I thought was some sort of crop or fields of some. And I asked the pilot, "What is that?" And he said, "It's people."
Oh,
Like I
wow.
was out of my mind. Of course, it's people. That's
Yeah.
why you're in a helicopter and not a car.
Yeah.
I No, I mean the colors down there. He said, "It's people." And then he points to this thing ahead that's the size of a football stadium, and that's the stage. At that point, like everything fell. My stomach dropped. My throat. Everything. Like, that's the stage. I'm thinking, I can't go on a stage like that. I'm just all by myself. I play three chords. I don't even know what I'm going to sing.
Three chords
And
and the truth.
Hmm.
and there's a lot of people out there. No,
Hmm.
I had a lot of intention in those chords, I'll tell you.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's what I was armed with. I have a percussionist. Anyway, when I descend the field, Richie Havens was in his like 50th minute of freedom, which had been motherless child, but they kept doing that symbol, to keep going, keep going.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So it went in from motherless child to a refrain of freedom, freedom. I had known Richie Havens, not close friends or anything, but he was in the village. He was like the Pope of Greenwich Village,
Hmm.
Richie Havens. And I was a really an unknown person. I didn't hang out at the village. I mean, in the village, I went there with my mother because she was a jazz singer. She sang at the Blue Note,
Hmm.
and she
Wow.
sang at different jazz places in the village. And with Sam the Man Taylor and Biba, and she would go to the jazz places and listen to Sun Ra and all these people. And during that time, sometimes I would always take my guitar, and sometimes I would go down to the Washington Square and sing. And I had a really loud voice and attracted a little crowd. And then when I finished the song, I was again so shy that I just would run out of there. I didn't like
Hmm.
wait, and I didn't have people would pass a hat, or I didn't do that. I didn't know what I would. I was
Hmm.
embarrassed, so
Yeah.
I would just run out. Sometimes I played in little places like the Fat Black Pussycat or something, but mostly it was just wherever. Again,
Mhm.
it's an odd combination of being a person who's such an introvert, but there's a drive to get songs heard,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've
Right.
been writing since I was 4 years old. So I had
Hmm.
quite a backlog of material. And at that time, I would be singing a song I wrote called Mama Mama. Anyway, my mom would, then we'd go back to New Jersey. It's not like
Hmm.
I hung out in the village and knew a lot of people. So when Richie was in his 50th minute of freedom, freedom, I figured when I landed, I'm going to be ushered to the stage, right? I
Hmm.
didn't really know what was going to happen, but I figured that's what the hurry was, and
Right.
that's probably why they had him going on and on because I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I really thought there was much more organization than there actually was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got down and they ushered me to a little tent with a dirt floor. They didn't even give me, an artist's backstage pass. I I had nothing, just me and my guitar, and not even a bottle of water because they didn't sell water yet.
Yeah.
This was before they sold water.
Yes.
What a con!
Yeah. Right. Right.
Before water was ever sold, they, and I'm in this tent, and across from me, about 10, 12 feet away, is the tent that says Tim Hardin. I always loved his song, If I Were a Carpenter. In
Hmm.
fact, I sang it, but I was so shy. I never, went over and said, Hey, Tim, I
Hmm.
sing your song. It wasn't like that. And I figured any minute somebody's going to come and get me. And someone did come. They said, Okay, you're on next. And then I heard somebody else singing and playing, and I knew it wasn't me. So it wasn't me. And so this went on all day.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
you're on next. Because I was like the easy person to throw up on stage,
Right.
just
Right.
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
her up there. Because, in between setting up for, you know, a big group or something, they could get me. And this went on all day. And then night fell and it started to rain. And I felt, I prayed that I would be somehow not have to do this. I was thinking, what can I do to
Uh-huh.
get out of it? No, really.
Hmm.
This was more than terror. And I
Or
was there
just
by
a little
myself.
stage fright.
Yeah.
That was like
Just
out of a horror movie, probably for you. You know.
Yeah. Go on.
It was like a horror movie. Nobody could understand. In fact, it always sort of amuses me when people say, Oh, what was it like hanging out with Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah.
Like really? And in fact, my one cuddly Woodstock moment was I was like a super fan of Joan Baez.
Hmm.
And at one point late in the day, I had developed this really deep bronchial nervous cough.
Uh-huh.
And just a few feet away was this huge tent. And I never gave it much thought, but that must have been where the bigger stars were set up with
Hmm.
probably amenities and privacy and
Yeah.
maybe even a porta potty. I don't know. Whatever they had in there. I never ventured to go inside. But Joan Baez must have heard me coughing because a girl, a little beatific flower child type, came in and said, Joan Baez? And she
Hmm.
said, Yeah, Joan Baez. She heard you coughing from when she walked by
Yeah.
it. And so she sent over tea and lemon and honey
Oh wow.
for me. I know. It
That's
was such a
special. That is so
wonderful thing.
special.
That was my Woodstock moment.
And you
That
had the strength and power. You mustered that strength and power to get up on stage and to perform.
Well, right before, again, I thought I had a reprieve
Hmm.
because it started to rain. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered, was it Wavy Gravy or something, was making an announcement about his collective with passing out candles and we should
Hmm.
keep the candle alight, blah, 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 blah. And again, I'm thinking, oh, everybody's going to go home. It's raining. They're going to go home, and I can go back to life as it was, and I will be okay, and I will be fine just there in my reverie. Someone said, "You're on next." Now,
Yeah,
what happened is the incredible string band was scheduled to go on that night at that particular slot. And, they're smarter about electricity than me. I didn't think of that part. They refused to go on. So they didn't go on.
Yeah.
I was the next best choice. There are lots of theories that if they had performed at Woodstock when I did, when they were supposed to, their career would have taken a totally different turn.
Right, and that's likely true.
But it's really on. The odd thing is that they were my favorite group. They had been my favorite group, and later on in life, when I opened Neighborhood Records, which was, by the way, the first independent artist-owned record label in America. The only other artists who ever opened a record label were the Beatles.
Wow.
And that was in the UK. Anyway, I thought, I got to get out of here. I got to get, and I was so terrified. I mean, I really thought I was going to my certain doom. That people were going to start throwing things at me. I don't know. I don't know what I thought. I thought I was going to die. So, and I actually had an out of body experience, and I was not stoned or drugged or in any way altered because I was kind of a purist vegetarian at the time. So I went up, and as I'm walking that plank, I left my body. I wasn't there anymore. Everything went quiet. I could watch myself walk on the stage. And I always thought that part of maybe how I resonated with people there had something to do with, 500,000 people got to see me have this out of body experience and return. I came back to myself and was singing. And that was that. I sang a whole set. In fact, I sang a song that no one had ever heard, or no one, really no one. I had just written a song called Birthday of the Sun. And now born again hippies come to my show and they request for a Birthday of the Sun because it was on Woodstock too. And so they've heard this song and they request it. And I was like, why would you want to hear that? I never sing that song. I only sang it at Woodstock.
Yeah, wow.
Because it was raining, and I thought it was a good idea.
It's the birthday of the rain.
You came back from the out-of-body experience while you were singing. Then you were singing and you kind of came back to your own consciousness. Is that right?
Right. I was there. I was singing. But it was such a profound experience because that had never happened to me before. And it has happened to me since. But it's a reaffirmation that I'm not just a body. There's this other part of us that I don't know. I guess some people call it where the body is like an energy container,
right?
And that we well within, and so I think that was reaffirmed in a very big way at Woodstock. So
right.
I always thought that might have had something to do with how well I resonated with the people. I mean, I was so vulnerable. I think that people have an instinct for vulnerable, with
Right.
children very, very vulnerable.
Right.
I
And
was, I was,
this place full of people was full of peace and love. And if you try to do it again, there would be violence. There would be some bad things happening. There was so much love there at the site. This is just, my thoughts on that.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is to do with, and there's so much psychiatric meddling now,
Hmm.
with the different drugs that pharmaceuticals have successfully promoted
Hmm.
over these years.
To normalize
I
people,
mean,
yeah.
everybody's something. Everybody's on something. Everybody's
Hmm.
everything. It's unbelievable.
Hmm.
So that kind of meddling has produced different kinds of rage and violence and
Hmm.
suicidal tendencies and behavior that's not really people. It's
Hmm.
not, because people are really nice. I mean, mostly,
Hmm.
mostly people when they're meddled with seriously like that. And I guess it came from the motivation of you know, or we don't want people to feel things. People shouldn't have to feel pain
Right.
or any. You know, I mean, I think that's you need to sort of feel things.
Hmm.
Feeling is where it all comes from, and then you feel this way if you do that, and if you don't do it, you feel better. So that's how you learn. You know,
Right. Right.
don't touch the fire
You'll
if
get
you don't want to
burned.
get burned.
I rode my bicycle past your window last night. I roller skated to your door at daylight. It almost seems like you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you got something I need. Well, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. I think that we should get together and try them out, you see. I've been looking around a while. You got something for me. Oh, I got a brand
So I wanted to talk about Brand New Key. I'm
I
sure you
thought you
talked
would
about this.
never ask.
Yeah. I remember this song. Well, it was in the 70s. I was probably 6 or 7. My mom listened to the radio all the time, and I'm
Mhm.
sure they played it. And I still love this song. I mean, it's a very happy, for me, it's a very pleasant song. And now
Aw.
this song went to #1 on the Billboard 100 singles chart. What's interesting is, and I know you've talked about it before, but maybe you can tell our listeners, is this song was banned on some radio stations in the US.
Yeah, well, it's incredible because they thought it was a drug song, a key having to do with a short for kilo,
Oh,
and it
really?
was in
Didn't
all
see that
fairness
coming.
to whatever it was. There was also these this sort of semi phenomena of wife swapping,
Uh-huh.
these key clubs, and they would like I don't even know what they're talking about, but like they'd leave a key, and
Hmm.
that meant that and people get bored, they do funny
Yeah.
things,
But isn't it amazing
and
that like the new songs that are out in the last 10 years or more, what they're playing, I don't know if, on the radio,
I
but the
know
song, and there's no innuendo or anything.
in descriptions that I wouldn't want to see
Yeah, and this song is
at
so
all.
innocent in the lyrics that they picked it apart. They were telling people what it was about. And
Oh, the sexual innuendos and
yeah,
everything. It was a time when you play a Beatles record backwards and it says
yeah,
Paul is dead. There
yeah,
were there were all
I remembered
things
the
floating around.
backward masking, they called it.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Who knows?
Now,
It's a crazy, crazy stuff. Crazier than that has
mhm.
happened in
How did
the
this
state of,
song
of
come
music.
about? You wrote it. It didn't take you that long to write it, so it must have been maybe in like just came to you. Tell us a little bit
Yeah, it
about.
was well, I don't know if you know, but I was a vegetarian,
Hmm.
and I wasn't doing well. I was doing poorly as a vegetarian health wise. I kept getting sick and
Hmm.
wondering what's going on because this is the perfect diet and we're
Hmm.
all supposed to be vegetarian. Well, but during this whole period of time, I investigated different people who, you know, promoted healthful ways of living so that you didn't get sick. So I found Dr. Bernard Jensen, and he studied iridology, and he himself was a vegetarian, but he didn't promote it for everybody. So
Hmm.
he definitely believed your different blood type require different things. Not one size fits all.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went out to his place because I was supposed to do in a few months' time. I was supposed to do Carnegie Hall, which
Hmm.
was really big, and
Yeah.
so I I kept getting sick, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I went out to his health ranch, and he put me on a cleanse, and how we did this was a fast on
Uh,
nothing but distilled water,
Hmm.
and he said you'll know when you're finished with this because you'll something will alert you
hmm.
as to when to break the fast. Well, I must have really needed this fast because nothing was alerting me.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
And it was 27 days,
26
27
weeks.
days on,
Oh, oh, okay.
but the stays on
Mm.
distilled water. And amazing things happen when you fast
Hmm.
that long. But I didn't dream that I would ever be a meat eater again. I went, broke the fast the way he told me. He did suggest that I eat meat a couple of times a week because that's the sort of person I was, very prone to needing being grounded a
Hmm.
little bit. And meat is one of the forces that helps ground people. So he suggested I do that. I was horrified. And he said, "Well, but you'll know your perfect diet because you're so cleansed and so in tune and so know what you know." So I went back home. I had broken the fast very gradually on
Right.
partially grated carrot, and cooked carrot and cooked zucchini and a little bit of this and a little bit tiny, tiny bits because it's a shock, when you first put food in your mouth, your insides turn inside out. So I went home and I was on my way. I loved going to flea markets. I don't know if you know Englishtown, New Jersey.
Yeah,
There
I've
used
heard
to
of
be a
them. I don't think I've been there.
huge flea market, but it started out people really selling their old junk,
Hmm.
and
I think they still
Yeah,
do.
it's still there.
no, I think it's mostly stuff that they buy to sell.
Oh, okay.
This was days
Collectibles.
of people just, cleaning out their basements and
Hmm.
selling their old 1950s GE lamp or
Yeah.
something, some, junk, just, all kinds of, but antique dealers did go at 4 in the morning while it was still dark and a flashlight. And I would pretend I was an antique dealer and say, "What's your dealer's price?"
Hmm.
And just come home with a big old bag of stuff. And I don't know why I'm not a hoarder, but I'm a collector, and I
Yeah.
like to have like
Yeah.
things with like. I was on my way home, and I was hungry, and we were passing a McDonald's, and I smelled this aroma that
Hmm.
just brought me back to some other time. If it was the rancid oil or whatever, but we were passing and I said, "Stop." So we stopped, and I always travel with a little guitar. It's called a hop guitar, and so I had this with me. We went in. We got the whole works. The fiberglass milkshake, the hamburger, and the fries. And I no sooner finished my last bite of burger, and that song was in my head.
Wow.
And I swear that song came out of that experience. Now you figure I hadn't eaten anything for 27 days except partially cooked grated zucchini.
Carrots and zucchini.
So here I am, and no wonder I didn't get ghastly ill or anything.
Yeah.
I just finished my last bite of burger. That song was in my head, and I started playing it in the car going home. And when I got home, I started playing it on the edge. I was sitting at the edge of my bed, and Peter said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. It's some silly thing I started to write." He said, "No, do that part again. I got a brand." And I said, "Oh," and I could see in his eyes.
Wow.
He said, "Melanie, that's a hit." And I went,
"Wow,
no, no,
not
Peter,
this.
That's a hit.
Not this. Did the music and the words come together?
My life.
Did it all come together at the same time?
Yes.
Wow.
All came together.
I have to tell you, when I first heard the song, like I said, I was probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8. I didn't know what you looked like. I didn't know your age, but I imagined it was a girl, maybe not like 8, but maybe like 12, 13. I don't know why, but I imagined it was a girl singing that, and maybe because of the lyrics, and it's a song you can listen to over and over. I mean, if I heard it, it's a song you're not gonna. I wouldn't turn the channel on the radio, if it came on the radio.
And at the same time, so I'm thinking of that song, and I'm thinking it wouldn't have such an in-depth story behind it. The 27 days of fasting, the finding, the desiring meat to stay grounded, and then writing it, having it come to you. I didn't see that coming.
Right. It's amazing, it's like believe me, I've tried eating hamburgers again.
Yeah. Because maybe there's something in the McDonald's burgers that you're good for songwriting.
I think we did that, and something about the aroma just brought me back to when I was little and my dad holding the training wheels.
Yeah.
And you hear his voice getting further and further away, and you see, "You're holding on, right, Dad? You're holding on." Yeah.
Wow.
And his voice is 20 feet away, he isn't, then you fall. And I lost my front tooth, my new front tooth chipped because I was roller skating down Suicide Hill in Astoria, and I fell, and it just all came back to me, and I was thinking that when I wrote it.
Wow.
I certainly didn't think double entendre. I didn't think, I'm going to be so clever and be sexual innuendos everywhere or anything.
Yeah. Like I said, as a kid, it was 2 young kids, like maybe first love. That's what it. Yeah. That's what I thought. But
and about what year? And about what year was this?
It was 71.
71.
72.
You'd be better at guessing that.
Yeah. Well, Rob just said 1971, 1972.
Yeah, I think it was the end of 71, 72. It was went to number 1. So
wow.
Yeah. Because I shortly after that I had a baby, so I know that because I was in the hospital and Alison Steele was announcing it, that I had a baby, and I was pretty close to that record being a hit.
Right.
But that was 73. So,
right.
I guess, it really, by the time it all came out. Anyway, I used to really, because it just, again, it was sort of like Rolling Stone said, "Ha, we knew she was just a silly girl." And I spent years sort of being a reactionary against that song. I mean, so I would say sometimes it brought me from doing venues that hold a couple of thousand people or or less to stadiums.
Yeah.
Now I'm singing for 50,000 people, and it was a whole new experience. And they wanted to hear an hour and a half of Brand New Key.
Yeah.
And sometimes
it's a song that propelled you farther, but not necessarily a song that you loved or loved to perform.
Yeah.
I think of Tom Jones with What's New Pussycat.
Right.
He does that song, but I know he does not like doing that.
And Ricky from that show, what was his name? Ricky, he wrote Garden Party.
Oh, Ricky Nelson.
Ricky Nelson, of course. Yeah. He, had this, I was having my, Ricky Nelson moment, and sometimes as a reactionary, I would get up on stage and sing a whole set and not do the song.
Yeah. Yeah, Garden Party is about the fans wanting you to do your certain songs that he no longer wanted to do anymore, Yeah.
But it wasn't even that I didn't want to do it. It was just, there was such a misconception about who I was, From after that song, even though I had several hits before that song, Lay Down Candles in the Rain, and look what they've done to my song.
Look what they done to my brain, Ma. Look what they done to my brain. Well, they picked it like a chicken bone, and I think I'm half insane, Ma. Look what they done to my soul. I wish I could find a good book to live in. Wish I could find a good book.
But even so, they called me a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that they knew. So I became a bit of a reactionary. But now, I listen to that song and I think that's incredible because it's still, other than the way it was recorded, with the technology of that time, but it was an amazingly timeless song and production, because Peter was very, very creative, and he used sugar packets to do some of the percussion.
Sugar packets?
Yeah, shaking little sugar packets.
Oh, wow. I'll have to listen to it more closely now.
That's cool.
We had three strange elements. We had Roger Kellaway, who was the arranger, and he was very avant-garde, into John Cage, and he played the prepared piano in this particular recording. And we had the guys who sang Lavender Blue Dilly Dilly doing the background vocal, which went hum ha ha all through the song. I said, Peter, of course, hum ha ha might have been the clincher as far as getting it banned.
Yeah.
So,
that's great. That is so funny. So speaking of technology and such, Melanie, I was wondering, what are your thoughts? What are some of the positive developments, and what are some of the ones that you maybe see as negative throughout your however many decades of being in the music industry? Just want to pick your brain there. What's your thoughts on what are some negative and some positive things, and what's happening with the music industry? What's happening with music? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts, but we won't go to the darkest places.
Okay.
We'll focus on technology is great, and in the hands of creative people who want to take the time to make the very best product they can, it's amazing technology. If Peter had the technology that we have now, God knows what kind of records we would have made, but it certainly wouldn't have taken as long. It was just an amazing time saver. But in the hands of somebody who just wants to be famous for the sake of being famous, it's horrible, because well, we're in the era of one note songs, songs that don't even bother to deviate.
Yeah.
They're just
Right.
one note. And it really does is, I hear, older people saying they want to be cool and they want to, be with it and everything. Well, we had our music and now the kids have their music. Well, not really, because this is shoved down their throat. This isn't, and it's highly scientific. You're going to hear the song before it's ever released. You're going to hear the name of the person before it's released. You're going to buy that record. You are going to buy that record. And the technology of selling is also at the stage of ridiculous scientific mind meddling point where I remember there was an ad campaign for Blondes Have More Fun. This was, I don't know, what was that, the 60s, early 60s? Blondes Have More Fun. And it was they were talking about this new way they use psychiatrists and psychologists in marketing things. But now we're way beyond people don't even know they're being brainwashed. They don't even know.
And you know that we're entering a time of artificial intelligence in the last year. And that has made it so that now even video can't be believed. If I'd show you a videotape of something, now that might not be true.
Absolutely. And where so many people believe that it is, that, the powers that be who are promoting darker things use that to their advantage.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. We don't really, my solution is to not just watch as little mainstream media, TV and radio. I mean, the radio is horrible because, you'll go to a place that's supposed to be like the cool place and they're playing, I don't know, some alternative one note thing. And I have to get out of here.
Yeah, we know that. We know that so-called music.
I mean,
it's kind of music, but it's not even really music. So
no, it's not, and it's not really the choice of kids. I mean, so many kids are, looking to hear some music because music is part of our existence as a culture, and when it gets to this stage, you sort of wonder if it's a sign, But I think enough. I have great hope for the younger people because they have to wake up, and they're waking up.
I like when they, with a TV show like Stranger Things, where they used Kate Bush's song "Running Up That Hill," and it opened up, people that never even heard of Kate Bush. So if that's one way, in a good way, of getting them to maybe explore beyond Kate Bush, but like maybe I should look back in music history and check out some older albums.
Well, that's what people are doing, and that's keeping me alive, even archive things like the Magic Bus, is keeping me alive and relevant. I listened to some of the songs. They were almost prophetic, as the lyrics go. It's pretty incredible. Like hearing the news. I don't know if you got to hear that one. It's the lyrics are like they could have been written now.
Oh, the news?
Amazing.
What are they called?
Hearing the news.
Hearing the news. Okay.
It's on the Magic Bus CD.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, it's like amazing how I think I was really channeling. It's a cliche word, but in reality, that's kind of, I think what a lot of songwriters do is that they sort of get into this zone where they're in touch with things,
Right. I want to offer you some hope. We have interviewed several people in their 80s, and then we switched Rob got a connection with a young lady, 14 years old, singer, songwriter, guitarist, 14 years old in Florida, Francesca. Francesca Tarantino. We interviewed her, and here she is, open to many types of music, playing singer-songwriter, rock, and playing out. She plays out 2 or 3 weekends a month in these places, these restaurants and stuff. It's amazing. So even at age 14, she's doing it, and she's doing it right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, there are people doing it, but unfortunately, they're not the people that are being promoted.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah, and we promoted her.
I do have a lot of hope for people creating, and they're always asking me, what do you suggest? Because, well, the music industry right now is so controlled. Most people feel they have to do what they're being told to do.
Yeah.
And to, emulate the last big hit record and try to do that. But that's the last thing you should do.
Yeah.
You need to really and truly follow your artistic voice, the voice that tells you what's good. And if you're in it just to be famous, well, go, strip down and be famous. But,
maybe ride a wrecking ball or something.
Yeah.
Well, I got to meet Miley.
Yeah, we were going to ask you about that.
Things.
Tell us about
it was right after she was doing this sort of these backyard sessions before the latest a series of backyard sessions, where she was really kind of oatmeal granola cookie. You know what I mean? It was she was getting all into her real self and everything.
Yeah,
and then
great.
Somebody must have gotten a hold of her. At the time, I think it was it Larry Reindeer or something. one of her managers was had something to do with a reindeer. I don't know what it was. Anyway, somebody got a hold of her, and said, "This is a great idea." The song was written by not 1, not 5 people, but 6 people.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, how can 6 people write a song, But it was, and she did it. And it was right about that time she called me and asked if I wanted to do these backyard sessions. And it was right as Wrecking Ball had come out. The first thing that came out of my mouth, well, what would I wear?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good question.
But she's a really talented person. I think she's questing for her authentic self and probably at war with the powers that be in the music industry and herself, So,
and it was a phase, Some people go through that phase.
Actually, yeah, people don't like phases in the music industry. They like you to stick to your brand.
Stay the same. Stay the same.
Stay the same.
Yeah.
And the problem is when you are in that phase, like Miley Cyrus was, being half naked and twerking, people don't forget that. And they don't know that her last album, which I listened to because I like Miley, is a great album, but people just, I don't like Miley Cyrus because they only think of what she did, years ago.
Right.
They don't realize that she's matured a little bit musically. And
yeah, nobody wants to be judged by how they were years ago. I don't want that for myself right now. Yeah.
I do.
I do. Oh, you're so funny.
It's amazing. I just counted myself. So I was so hard on myself. You cannot imagine. I thought I was ugly and funny looking, and I thought, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was very hard on myself.
Yeah.
Again, I was against and a reactionary against Brand New Key, but then I came around and I'm thinking, what was I crazy? It's a great song, it's cute and
And the story for vegetarians and those who love good health, it's an amazing story too. The smell of meat, eating it, being grounded, having it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I never thought that would be the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Miley was a vegetarian. I don't know if she still is, but she asked me about being a vegetarian, and I said, "Well, for some people it's good, but it wasn't good for me. I kept getting sick."
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and it does depend on your blood type. And I think she's a blood type O. I forgot, but blood type O people shouldn't be vegetarians. It just doesn't work. I'm not saying you should see a pound of steak every night or something, but mostly keep away from sugar and bad stuff.
So, Melanie, I had the pleasure of meeting you at Chiller Theatre autograph show in April. You signed Gather Me album that I have. For our listeners, before we let you go, are there any appearances you're making, any shows coming up, anything like that?
My whole life has gotten so changed since the lockdown. I know a lot of people bounce right back. They're doing exactly what they always do. I am not. I didn't get vaccinated. It was a horrible. I lost friends not from COVID, from just a kind of relentless, anger, a kind of that was being promoted. Oh, you're a super spreader and you're this and that. I don't know. I eat organic.
Right.
I don't know about.
Matt and I got vaccinated. I have nothing against people that didn't. Your choice, and that's sad that you lost friends because of that.
Political.
Oh yeah, politics has divided a lot of people.
Anyway, what I do now is I've done a lot of online shows. I did do a tour in the Netherlands, and traveling is so much harder now.
Yeah,
just everything, the rigmarole of what they put people through. So anyway, I might do another tour. I might not, but some people have been asking me to go to the West Coast and do some stuff, and I don't know. Yeah. I may or may not. But
you need to do a magic bus tour. You get an old Volkswagen bus.
Yeah, you and Bo in the Volkswagen bus.
But if you look at our banners, in fact, please do, share if that's a proper social media etiquette. I think someone told me you can't ask people to share, but I'm asking anyway. Anything that you can do to get the word out that I'm still here. I'm still here. Chris Novoselic of the Nirvana said, I've been airbrushed out of history. And I agree. I think that is so true.
No, I'll share your CD. Our listeners need to check out Magic Bus. Tell us a little bit more about Magic Bus.
It was an interview and a concert all at once. I kind of dropped in on Curtis Schwartz, who was a DJ in Miami. And
in 1972.
Right. To promote, I guess, a show, and my husband was in the control room, probably holding up a sign saying, "Melanie, promote the show," which is something I never did. It was just, I always thought that was somebody else's job. There I was, with Curtis Schwartz, and at the time there was sort of an agenda. Like I said, the president of CBS, Clive Davis, at the time, and it was a big changeover. When all of a sudden, instead of musical people running the music business, it became lawyers running the music business. And he was like one of the first very visible lawyers who was at the head of CBS, which is now Sony. But at that point, he didn't get me. And there were multitudes of people who didn't get me, but there was a whole movement of people who did. I always figured like Rolling Stone and underground music papers and stuff were like my people,
Yeah.
These are my people. But the problem was that wasn't that wasn't the agenda. I wasn't part of it, and so they would sort of make way less of me, and if they referred to me at all, in fact, I mean it's really unbelievable that I had as many hits as I had, and I was never on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
anyway, they weren't promoting me. But the funny thing is now, all these years later, my biggest following, I suppose, is, well, again, born again hippies, kids who just discovered something.
Mm-hmm.
Then people, the younger brothers and sisters, or the children of the people who thought Melanie's just not cool enough, because that's kind of how they were promoting me, like I'm just not cool enough.
Uh-huh.
So, and how I got to talking about that is Curtis Schwartz fell into the category of she's just not cool enough. Except the magical thing about this recording is that I changed his mind. You know, it was.
I listened to the whole, album. I was sitting outside a couple of weeks ago and nice weather and just listened to the whole thing. I don't know Curtis Schwartz. I've never heard him before, but he to me, first impression is he sounded a little pompous to me.
Yeah, well, that was kind of, he was of the Dick Cavett ilk, more in he wanted to place himself in the intelligentsia, academia.
I know everything.
Of the music. Yeah, that's right. And Melanie was just not it. So I think he discounted me. But again, by the end of the interview, I had changed his mind. And that's the magical reason why I'm so happy my son got to restore it, and it's out there, and people are really loving it. And thank you for checking it out and having me on.
Now you're almost sold out of the CD. Are you going to make any more?
Well, we're talking about it now. We've still got some, but we are almost out. But don't give up. My son and I are probably going to do a Magic Bus online show.
Okay.
From Magic Bus, and I do have a Patreon. Any way that you can support me in what we do in our work, and I'm still writing. I have a whole slew of songs that are pretty humorous.
Okay.
Most of them. I'm still writing. I never stopped writing.
Okay.
And that's one thing that happens as you get older. Yeah. It's not one of those things that goes away.
Yeah.
So, here I am.
Excellent.
Support me on Patreon and anywhere you can share links. That would be wonderful.
Okay.
All right. Great interview. Thank you so much, Melanie. This is Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
See you, Matt. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
We were so close, there was no room. We bled inside each other's wounds. We all had caught the same disease, and we all sang the songs of peace.
You've been listening to No Good Music. Today's interview was produced and edited by Rob J. Lilly and recorded via Zoom at the Did You Say 7 Studios in Washington, New Jersey. You can find No Good Music on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, and almost anywhere you listen to podcasts. The songs Hearing the News, Beautiful People, Birthday of the Sun, Brand New Key, Look What They've Done to My Song Ma, and Lay Down Candles in the Rain, used with permission from Melanie.